Right, I've got on the bench this motorboard and motor which I got from RetrotechUK 2025. Hopefully you can see it on one of the cameras here. It's quite big for this bench actually. Okay, so this is just a quick heads up to say this isn't going to be a tutorial. It's for entertainment purposes only, although I do give some warnings later on about the dangers of working on gramophone springs and recommend using a competent repair person if you need any spring work done. This is very cheap because it doesn't work. I can put wines on it, but as you'll probably see, there's no action. Now, when I first saw it, excuse me, this brake here, get that on camera, that was touching the platter, so I've sort of bent that away. This brake is broken, unfortunately. But you know, there might be some useful bits in there, and the motor control looks pretty good. But it basically doesn't work, and the dealer was very happy just to get rid of it, to be honest, as far as I could tell. Nobody else at the show was interested in it, and I was interested because it has a Garrard 11A motor in it, and I thought, though not correctly, I thought this was the same as the motor in my Columbia 124A. Now you might think, well, you know, don't I know the model number from my Columbia? Well, I do. It's a Columbia 100, because although Garrard made the motors for Columbia, they just gave them different model numbers. But I'm pretty sure the motor in my Columbia is actually a Garrard 10A, effectively. This is an 11A, which is very similar, but not quite the same motor. Now anyway, can I get this motor to run? Well, I very much doubt that I can show on camera, but looking under the platter, I can see it looks like the screw holding this motor in place is actually popped up. And in fact, the motor is loose. You can probably see the motor is loose. And I think it's just catching on the underneath of the platter, because if I do move the platter around manually, you can see that the governor here is moving. So I don't think there's actually anything really wrong with this motor. I mean, it might have broken springs. I mean, gramophone motors, you know, there's always the possibility the springs are broken, but it's not like the motor itself is actually jammed up as such. So I think if I remove the platter, there's a fair chance that the motor will spring to life. So I'm going to take the winding handle out first. Let's get that out of the way. Don't need this either. And I did actually put a drop of oil down here a little earlier, just to seep in and maybe release it a little bit. So going to use a trick that I've used before. In most cases, the platter is just pressed on. It's not screwed or anything. There are some machines. I've seen some early H&Vs, or one particular early H&V, where this bit unscrews. Some cases I believe the whole platter unscrews, but for the vast majority of machines that I've come across, especially ones with Garrard motors, the platter is just pressed on, so it just needs to be pulled off. So what I tend to do is just try to insert a piece of wood underneath. Can we get that all the way through? Really want it to go all the way through and out the other side if I can. Usually this piece of wood will work for this. Right, okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to suspend it on the platter, and then just using a mallet, just tap it very lightly. Right, I can see that's going through. Get rid of this for the moment. With a bit of luck, that will now pop off, and it does. and you can see the motor has sprung directly into life. You can also see that the motorboard is a complete mess underneath. This machine, whatever this motorboard is from, did not originally have this motor in. Somebody has fitted this motor. In fact, it looks like they've had a couple of goes at fitting this motor. You can see screw holes here and here, here and here. It's actually quite difficult to just put a sort of random motor into a machine. Because things don't line up. The screw holes don't line up, the brake doesn't line up, the speed control doesn't line up. So you really need, in order to successfully remotor a machine, it really needs to be the same motor, or it needs to be a very similar motor. Now, this motor isn't the same, as I say, as the one in my Columbia 124A. However, I think the mounting screws, which are sort of like in there, and there's another couple in here somewhere. I don't want to touch the governor. Don't want to hurt my finger on the governor. The mounting screws, I think, are in the same positions, and I think this bit here is the same, and I think where the winding bit's the same, down here is the same. I think where it differs is that this has smaller springs, so it still has two springs, like on the Columbia 124A, the Columbia 100 motor on the 124A, but these are smaller springs, and so therefore the frame is not as deep, and it doesn't come out this way as much. But I think this motor would still drop in. Having said that, I'm not too fussed about dropping the motor in, because I do actually have a working motor in that machine. It did have a broken spring. I was able to replace one of the spring barrels with one with a working spring. So these motors actually they have what's called a floating spring, and I think, and I've not tried it, I think that there is a clip here that can be removed to remove the spring barrels. Now obviously the spring barrels have to be wound all the way down. All the power has to have been removed from the motor before the springs are removed. But I think the idea is that you can easily remove this pair of spring barrels and actually just change one of the barrels, the one with the broken spring in. And on the Columbia 100 that I've got in the other machine, in the 124A, I have replaced the spring barrel with a spare spring barrel. So I've not had to go into the barrel. I've not had to do anything directly with the spring. Gramophone springs are powerful even when they're wound down, and I would strongly recommend going to somebody who has experience and skills in actually working with springs, rather than actually attempting to fix springs or clean or service springs yourself. So anyway, that's one of the reasons I quite like to find spare motors, because I really don't want to mess around with springs myself. Anyway, should we have a little look at these mounting screws? So I think they're just loose. There's only two. Actually, no, there's three. There's three there. Find a screwdriver. Hopefully this one will fit. Okay, so that's in rather more solidly. Pop the platter back on. So I think we'll give it a bit of a wind now and see whether the springs are actually any good. Now there's no functioning brake on this motorboard. And if I do use the board, I'm gonna have to put a functioning brake on it. Oh, yes, the brake is still catching a bit there. So maybe we'll let that catch. Not so easy to wind when it's outside the machine. You can see probably underneath there how the spring barrels are taking up. They're taking out the power from the turning of the motor, and you've got a ratchet system here to stop the handle winding backwards. Hopefully that's coming out on camera. Got the chest camera on today. Well, it feels okay. It's whether suddenly we get a sort of clicking noise from inside the barrels. Like it's sort of tightening up. Okay, well that's not completely conclusive, but if I let this go, that seems pretty okay. And it sounds like the speaker control's working. Probably not showing up very well. That's the speeding it up. When I turn it in the other direction, you should see that it's pushing this bar down and slowing it down. It's all to do with the position of this pad here, and I've got to be careful. I don't want to touch the governor because it's going to hurt if I touch the governor. But the little pad, there, pushing against the disc there. So as the balls spin out, the disc is pulled towards the pad, and that regulates the speed. So yeah, looking quite encouraging actually. Maybe we can measure the speed. We just slow that down like so. Right. About 78 RPM there. Yeah, it's reasonable. I mean, the motor needs some oil and whatever, but on the face of it, that's working okay. So I do actually have an idea for this. I'm actually thinking I might make it into a dedicated record lathe. So because it's on a nice piece of mahogany, but it's obviously not the right motor, it doesn't belong to a particular machine or anything, I could mount this up, maybe mount this up on blocks a bit high enough to allow me to wind the handle while it's in position, and then I can use this piece of wood here to mount on the sort of framework for a rather better record lathe than the one that I've been experimenting with in a previous video. So anyway, that's the idea, and I think the motor on this will actually work just fine. I mean, it seems to be working okay. It's only got to play for about a minute or so for the sort of CDs. Let me find one. For these sort of CDs I've got here that I've been using, you can probably see the record grooves on this one under this camera here. I don't know, I'm sure you can. There's only about a minute's worth of recording, so yeah, so I'm sure this motor will run for long enough. So that's a bit clunky there. That didn't sound too good. Okay, so maybe we'll kind of leave it there. Okay, so I think that is everything there. Now, if you've liked this video, then please do give me a like. And if you've got any thoughts or suggestions or comments, then I'd be very grateful. I'd be very happy to read them. Please leave them below. And if you have enjoyed this video, then you might like this one too. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.